You are about to see a remote viewing session where the viewer does not know anything about the target. The viewer did everything totally blind, no knowledge at all about the target. However, you have to know what the target is so that you can watch the remote viewer describe what was gotten in terms of the data. And at the end of the session, I will tell the remote viewer what the actual target was, and that's called the target reveal. So remember, I'm going to tell you the target, but when you watch the remote viewer describe the stuff, the remote viewer will not know what you know until the very end. So the target for this remote viewing session is Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, during the month of December 2023, when he's thinking about the status of the Ukraine war and the possible use of nuclear weapons. Now, this target has two focuses. Actually, they're what we call two concerns. So the remote viewer is going to be finding, locating the target subject, which is Vladimir Putin, and then the remote viewer is going to go into the mind of the target subject and find out what the subject is thinking about the current status of the Ukraine war. Then the remote viewer is going to go into the mind of the target subject again to find out what the target subject is thinking about with respect to the possible use of nuclear weapons. So the status of the Ukraine war, that's concern number one. And the possible use of nuclear weapons in the war, that would be concern number two. All right. Now you know the target. The remote viewer does not know the target. Let's see what the remote viewer gets. All right, Yeme, so we're here with Deep News, and just to make sure everyone in the audience knows, you've done this session, but you don't know the target, correct?
Correct.
And you're going to go through your session, tell us what you found, and then at the end of it, I'll tell you what the target actually is. Okay? All right, so why don't we start, we'll skip the preliminaries. Why don't we start with page 7, where you go to the center of the target and you pick up a subject. Why don't you start with that?
I perceived a male subject amongst multiple subjects. He seems to be inside a moving structure. This subject seems to be the go-to person in this space. His skin tone seems not pale, but not fully brown either. And his face has a texture to it. So the subject here at this target has light-colored clothing, appears white. The clothing appears white and has like a headdress. Possibly Caucasian, has a reddish tint to his face and hands. Moving into a deep mind probe, I feel like he is, and this is in reference to concern 1, I feel like he's in charge. I have deductions of captain, and an deduction of some form of intelligence. I don't know what I meant by that, but that's what I kept feeling. He calls orders, seems very important. Doesn't too much care for concern 1, and he seems to make a plan.
Okay. Well, what happens if you keep on going with the deep mind probe?
His mind is full of ideas or information. He seems to be like an information deliverer, the messenger, I guess. I don't feel like it's messenger-wise, but he delivers information. He is an okay person. He's not setting off any alarms in my head or any energetic field, but I see, as I am moving through the deep mind probe, I see a subject walking. He seems upset or triggered by something. He's very protective, but also calm, usually calm. Whatever triggered him has him all like riled up, hot in the head. And he needs to communicate something of great importance. So I guess it felt like whatever that was kind of bothered him or pushed him off the course of this level of communication.
So you have something more written here about the concerned one. He's upset in front of subjects or something?
Yeah, whatever's happening with this concern has him very upset, and he's visibly upset in front of others. He's not easily angered, so this is a big deal for him. And he seems to be like on the front line of this concern. So of whatever concern one is, this subject is on the front line of it, and he is livid. Like he's right in the middle of the aspects of concern one, but he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't agree with it. He feels like his say should count for something, and they're just nope, like overruling it. He feels like this should be something he gets a say-so in. So he's just not happy with this. As he's communicating with a group of subjects that look up to him, they look to him, the concern seems to occur, maybe. It affects the subjects around him. Like whatever it is happening, it's affecting the subjects around him and not in a positive way. This concern being presented in the manner that it is showed that itself, excuse me, it makes the target subject, this guy, seem untrustworthy. Like whatever's going on, it kind of make him seem like he's untrustworthy.
Then on the next page, on page 17, you really talk about how he's thinking about how he's being viewed by others.
Yeah, it really brings slander to his namesake and to his character. And especially him being visibly upset about it, it doesn't help the cause. Like he's not happy.
Wow. Okay, then you have them focus on concern 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know what concern 2 is, but what did you pick up about that?
As I was writing the prompt about concern 2, there was an immediate like pulsating situation going on. There's a lot of energy around this, and it's forceful. Like the hairs on my arm were standing up at that moment. And they're standing up now talking about it, but you can't see it. The hairs on my arm were standing up at that moment. Like the man was being targeted. It felt like he was being set up. This feels really bad. This feels terrible. This is not okay. It caused a lot of like rapid heartbeat. I don't really know that he knows about concern 2 to be able to have feelings towards it. However, his feelings within it, while in the midst of concern 2, he's emotionally hurt in multitude of ways. This is just my perception, but there's this air of depression, defeat, betrayal from someone he thought he was close to. Concern 2 seems to involve multiple subjects, but the target subject is being attacked. It may not be physical, it may be mental, emotionally, or political. It could be an array of things. But it seems to bring about chaos. It's really hard to see if it's internal or external, but mental chaos, extreme panic, like the way a riot would look inside his head.
Yeah, I get the idea. Keep going.
Okay, like you can feel panic, despair, hurt, sadness, confusion, panic directly from the target subject, from the subjects around him, and like his heart hurts. It's really broken. So whatever happened in that moment, it really breaks him. And that's what it feels like. That's what whoever is leading this Concern 2 wants to do. Or they want to shatter him. I don't know why, because that's mean. But at this point, people are just mean.
So it looks like you're having here that he had something set in place, but something happened.
Yeah, he had something set in place. It was a good thing. It is a good thing. And whatever Concern 2 is, just dismantled and mangled it. I feel like it can be salvaged, but this is a concern and like a question that I had about that salvaging is, but will those that trusted him before still trust him? So it can be salvaged. It makes me a little sad. I don't know. I don't know why these things affect me so deeply, but maybe the deep feelings I was feeling are his feelings, but it made me really sad, like that somebody would do that to someone on purpose.
Okay, so it looks like he has some considerable amount of regret. Like he doesn't know who did it, but somebody...
He knows who did it.
Oh, he knows who did it.
Mm-hmm.
He knows who did it. But he hoped it would not come to something like this.
Right.
So what was then the purpose of Concern 2?
To isolate, to put down, to destroy, to trip him up or catch him up.
So it's as if some people were manipulating him, and then Concern 2 came about as a means of getting rid of him.
Yes. That's what it feels like, in a sense.
Okay. So now you did a collective deep mind probes of the subjects surrounding this target subject. Of the subjects with the target subject. You were feeling nauseous at that time, too.
And I'm feeling nauseous now, coming into it as well. There are people who put all of their faith into what this man has to offer, what he set in place, and they brought it down. Mental manipulation. I don't feel manipulation internally. There's a lot of outward manipulation. There's someone very close to him that he listens to, that he trusts, and that person is terrible. Like, I can feel his energy. I don't want him near me. Like, he's terrible, but he doesn't know that for whatever reason, and that shocks me because this being, the target subject seems knowledgeable, but sometimes you just don't know who's a snake in your midst. But the being that is whispering in his ear, it's not a direct mental manipulation of his mind, but there's someone standing with him, and it's like his purpose is to manipulate him up close from the outside.
Wow. Okay. Well, are you ready to hear that's your session. You ready to hear what the target is?
Yes.
Okay, the target here was Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. And it's during the month of December 2023, so that'll be next month for us. We're recording this in November, when he's thinking about the status of the Ukraine war and the possible use of nuclear weapons. So focus 1 is when he's doing a deep mind probe. You're doing a deep mind probe in December, and his concern 1 is this. So this is really all focused with how he's thinking in December. His concern 1 is the current state of the Ukraine war, the war in Ukraine. Concern 2, which you went into in the second half of your session, is when he's thinking about the possibility of using nuclear weapons in Ukraine. If the war doesn't go well, and the idea of using a nuclear weapon. So with this particular subject, we're interested in how realistic is it that he could be thinking about the use of nuclear weapons if the Ukrainians continue to resist and the war doesn't go so well. So that was it. The most interesting thing that was the president of Russia. You were in his head. The most interesting thing is that he's got a traitor right next to him, apparently. It's almost like in the ancient days, there was a guy who was a mystic, Russian mystic called Rasputin. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, and Rasputin, he befriended the last emperor of Russia, which is Nicholas II.
Mm-hmm.
And he gained a lot of influence, and he was probably the main reason that the original emperor of Russia completely destroyed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that his whole government came apart because of Rasputin. So you seem to be having a session here where there's some modern equivalent of Rasputin.
Right.
And that guy, whoever he is, seems to be feeding stuff into President Putin's head about the use of nuclear weapons. And apparently it's with the idea of destroying Putin.
I did not call the being. I said being. I never said subject. I never said person. I never gave it a gender.
Yeah.
That's really
you never. So it could be male or female.
Oh, I said it was like a being. It did not. It was very direct. I wrote it big and everything. Usually I'll say there's another subject, but in this case I said being.
Oh, could this have been like an invisible subject?
I don't know. I could see it.
You could see him.
It.
Yeah, but you can see.
But you said a mystic, and so that makes me wonder if that spirit still surfaces for the same purpose.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it might be someone that Putin doesn't even see. If it could be like an AT.
I thought about that too, and so usually whenever I think about manipulation, I'll just out of habit, I'll go in to see if someone's in his head. Nobody was in there.
Nobody was in there.
It was external, and it was someone he's close to.
So that probably means a physical person that he's surrounded near him, that's whispering stuff in his head.
It's the spirit of Rasputin.
The spirit of Rasputin.
He has come back and gotten inside of his right-hand man's body.
Yeah, with the intent of destroying Putin. It's interesting. Okay, that was deep news, and
that is deep.
Yeah, that is deep. That is deep.
I wonder if next time I visit his mind, I'll know will I recognize his frequency. Much like whenever I am on Mars, I go, this feels like Mars, Or
yeah.
I wonder if next time I go inside his mind, if I'll recognize his frequency.
Yeah, it's a good point. Okay, we go on to the next one.